Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be talking all about Labo VR because, yes, I've only gone and bloomin' used it to the point where, well, now I actually have it. Yes, we did a sort of a preview a while ago where we had like an hour to faff around with things, and overall, yeah, you know, we had a good go at it, but even so, we didn't get the full VR experience that we wanted, and so now we can. Do not take this as an official, formal review. It is not that. In fact, one of the caveats of this being sent over was that we don't review it. So this is merely just an in-depth impressions type thing. Actually, my lenses are a little bit grubby. This whole thing's going to be a bit rambly because I haven't really got a plan per se, nor indeed have I got much time, and I need to do a written version of this as well because career. Oh, this is Alex from the future, just to let you know that a lot of the footage that you're going to see in this video is going to look a bit pants because of the way that VR works. You can sort of, you have to do everything in handheld mode, and we don't have the ability to capture Switch when it's in handheld mode, so it's mainly using the sort of the Switch capture button thing, so some of it's going to look pants, but some of it'll look alright. I'm going to go back now. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling, let's dive right into things. So, Labo VR, I've now built the old bloomin' thing, I've had a ruddy good go with it, and with it, I'm suddenly from Essex. And I've formulated an opinion, which is the whole point of this video, in case you somehow missed the memo when I first started talking. The building side of things is basically just like any other Labo kit. If you've built a Labo kit, you've built the VR kit. I don't think there's anything particularly out of the ordinary with it. There's an awful lot of folding of cardboard sheets. Things seem to be a little bit bigger this time overall. I mean, like, the blaster is an absolute chunk and I love it. But all in all, there's nothing extraordinary about any of the builds. They just seem very straightforward, simple. Yeah, you build it and you create a shape. I'd say the only thing that is slightly different is there's a lot of use of these sort of little foamy bits here. And these are basically just to protect your Switch, usually. I think maybe they're used once in another instance where it's not. And I think it might be in the blaster. The blaster, by the way, is still excellent. Yeah, build-wise, there's nothing really much to say. I'd say overall it was more on par with things like the Variety Kit than what I understand of the Robot Kit and the Vehicle Kit, whereby it's, you know, sort of lots of little things that generally aren't too strenuous overall. The biggest thing, again, to build being the blaster. This takes up to 3 hours, apparently, and it took me about an hour and a half. But yeah, not really much to report on the build. It's good fun. It's just as much fun as it was before, although it sort of lost the novelty that I had the first time because, it was so unique originally, and this is no less unique, but I've done it before, you know, so it sort of takes the edge off, which is fine. The build quality, though, I'd say is better than ever. Every single thing except for maybe the wing pedal feels extremely sturdy, again, especially the blaster, and especially the VR glasses themselves, or goggles, I suppose they call them. This thing is really sturdy, probably due to the fact that it's got a great big bit of plastic in the middle, which kind of goes against the whole sort of, oh, it's all cardboard type thing, but when it results in a longer lasting sort of main part of the whole thing, I'm down with that. Yeah, it's all greasy as well from where I've sweated on it. But what is a Toy-Con if it's not for the games you can bloomin' play with them? I still am not tired of this. It's great. So yes, let's talk about the games. The games. Okay, let's, obviously, you know, sort of each game has its own Toy-Con, as it were, and I think there's basically 2 games per Toy-Con, with a few exceptions, like the wing pedal only has 1, but the wing pedal is used in other bits and bobs, like, well, in fact, I think it's used in one other bit or bob, which is the birdie game. The first Toy-Con that I built was the elephant, and it's the one, you know, sort of in the game that comes with it. It's kind of like you've got to guide a marble into a series of rings, and, you know, sort of then you win, hurrah! And there's also a drawing application using that as well in 3D space. And it is a very accurate controller, actually. It feels very much like you're holding it in 3D space. However, it's kind of broken because you've got this whole sort of freedom of 3D space, but you're sort of attached to the ground in all the levels. So whilst you want to sort of move around and have a look at it from different angles, you can't do that. You're sort of rooted to the spot. And, you know, sort of even controllers and stuff like that, as far as I know, cannot move you from that one spot. So it can be a little bit difficult, even with the 3D, to sort of know where to hold the thing. And all the stuff to happen. I've just realized I should have said something at the start, so I'm gonna say it now. I'll just set the coordinates. Oh, there we go. I might have to edit that out because that felt a bit stupid. Using the whole sort of IR system and obviously, gyroscopes and things like that, the whole infrared thing, it does feel very accurate and it feels very good, but it just seems to be sort of halfway there, And again, this would be sort of like body tracking and stuff like that, which is a little bit out of the question, but I do still feel like when I'm in there that I want to move forward into things, physically move myself forward, and it can be quite jarring when nothing happens. And that can cause a little bit of confusion in the old brain box. The camera Toy-Con allows you to, unsurprisingly, take photographs of things. And you can do it underwater, and you can do it inside the house from the Variety Kit, I think, yeah. Everything here is recycled assets, which is a bit of a shame. There are a few little changes here and there, but realistically you're going into the same areas that you were in before if you played the Variety Kit, and taking photographs of things. It's a bit disappointing, to be honest, overall. It's not terribly engaging, and it causes a lot of motion sickness when I'm going up and down. Because, only in the underwater one. I don't know what it is, whether it's all the movement and everything, or the zooming, or the 3D perspective, but yeah, it gave me a bit of an upset tummy. Only a little bit though, but it was enough for me to go, oh! The bird thing is a much better time. Again, can cause a little bit of motion sickness when I was playing, but that seemed to actually sort of dissipate after a while. I don't quite know why. Maybe your brain just sort of says, okay, mate, you're playing a game, let's just get on with it. But it's good fun to just be able to fly around and, sort of flap around, and it doesn't feel, enormously immersive, but oh god, there's someone at the door. Yeah, I really enjoy the bird thing overall. It's very relaxed and easygoing, but yeah, it's fun. To be honest, I tried playing it because you can have the whole setup without actually using the goggles, and instead just essentially using a holder for the Switch in there, as it were. So this is just sort of a like that. And whilst that is a little bit sort of against the idea of VR, as it were, in fact, literally it is against the idea of VR, it's useful for capture. And also, it's just a different way to play things, and to be honest, I still think it's terribly enjoyable. If anything, it's slightly more enjoyable, I think, overall, just because it reduces the motion sickness. Same with the camera. But if you can get over the motion sickness, then VR is good. And then we've got the blaster now. I've kind of already sort of hinted towards this thing, but my god, do I love this thing. The blaster is easily, in my opinion, the best thing about the kit. Bird's pretty cool. I like birds more than I like guns, but this is just so well made. I've even got a Joy-Con still in there. It is the best experience in the entire VR's kit. And there's a load of other stuff that I haven't even touched upon and probably won't have time to, or the individual little bitty games, but even so, I'll sort of... It's basically an on-rails shooter, and I know this was the main thing that I covered when I did the impressions before, but even so, it's the best bit about it, so maybe they were... But as I say, it's an on-rails shooter. You go around shooting these little sort of alien blobs things, and then you've got bosses and stuff like that. You've got slow-mo. Honestly, it's the perfect way to have a sort of a VR experience. It just works so well. Everything feels completely natural. You're just there and you wow, 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 bang, 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 and it's just so intuitive. It just feels like it's just, you pick it up and you immediately know what to do. You pull back and you fire. It's already cocked. The only downside is that there isn't more of it, because they are so much fun. And, obviously you can go and make your own games, which I'll be talking about in a bit. But even so, it's nice to have the sort of the on-rail stuff pre-built for you, because it actually, sort of even looks pretty damn good overall. And it's just fun, It's just really good fun. There are high scores, there's aliens that you're obviously gonna miss. There's an element of skill and tactics and timing, and also a small degree of luck, I suppose. And it's just a great game, and the VR makes it all the greater. It makes you feel like you're I keep having to stop myself from saying it feels like you're actually there, because it does and it doesn't. It does trick your brain into thinking that you are standing in this world, but it feels like it doesn't feel like you're actually in the world. It's a really weird thing to describe. And it's not like other VR kits that I've used where it feels like that you are properly immersed in there, probably because of headphones and stuff like that and all manner of other things, and fiance's telling you to turn the volume down. But it sort of feels like you're peering through almost like a magic window, and you're sort of... It's really weird and really hard to describe, but it is very immersive. But at the same time, it's probably just because at any time you can just go, what? 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 So the blaster's great, it's brilliant. I don't want to sort of harp on too much about it because there's some other things that I've got to talk about, and they're not so good. I would say on the whole, I'm pleased with the VR kit and that I do genuinely really like it, and these they are brilliant. It's just a great way to get VR on the Switch. But Nintendo is sort of pushing the idea that this is supposed to be like a sort of a community thing, sort of, you know, you get your friends around and it's sort of fun and multiplayer, and there's definitely clearly a focus on that with several of the games, like Kablaster, which uses the blaster. And you're shooting through to hippos, I've talked about it before. And yes, you know, that is sort of communal in that sense, but every other game, you know, it's... Like, I built all of the stuff with my fiance, with the exception of, like, I think the goggles I built by myself, just because she wasn't there. And so, you know, once we built everything, we wanted to have a go at it. And so, you know, we built the blaster. We both wanted to have a go. Actually, no, that was different because she was tired. But everything else that we built, you know, sort of, we both wanted to have a go at it. So we went into the play section and we started playing the game. And then, so we'd spent all this time, we created this thing. We wanted to see how it worked. And then it, you know, sort of one of us could play. And one of us was using the VR goggles and seeing everything through, but both of us were hearing the sounds the game was making. So it was almost sort of weirdly tantalizing and weirdly sort of, I don't want to say torturous because that's OTT, but you know, that sort of thing, you know, you spend all this time building this thing and then all of a sudden you just hear somebody else playing it. You can't so much as see what's going on. You're just hearing sounds and they're going around going, whoa, 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 and having a really good time because it is really good fun the first time you use any Toy-Con, even like the camera and stuff that I'm not that keen on overall. You know, so it's a really good time, but then you've got the other person just sat there, twiddling their thumbs, hearing, whoa, happening, and they can't see what's going on. I think it's a problem with a lot of VR kits. I know a lot of them, like PSVR, allows you to output through HDMI as well, so you can see what's going on the TV. However, you just can't get that with Switch VR. So, as communal as it is, and as much as, you know, sort of, oh, pass it around, you have a go now, everyone else, it's a very sort of introverted experience, much like a lot of other VR just games generally, and so it sort of feels a bit like it's half the battle. If you've got children, I can imagine there's going to be a lot of, it's my go now, it's my go, isn't it my go now? Which, you know, sort of, I mean, you could argue the same with any game, but the fact that the other player can't even see what's going on, it does feel, it feels antisocial. It feels like, even though it's the only way to play it, really, it feels like you're hogging it. It feels like you're not letting everyone else in on the fun, even when it's their turn. You know, it's a small thing in the long run, and especially if it's just, you know, going to be two people and you're passing it back and forth, and you know what the games look like and stuff like that, you can kind of, you know, you could maybe get over it, but at least in the early stages, you know, when the Labo hype is real and, you know, the kids have just built it, and then all of a sudden only one of them can play at a time. Sadly, there's no easy solution to all of this because you can't just have the HDMI going out to the Switch as well. I mean, I suppose the only other solution I can think of is you have a second Switch that can sort of receive all the inputs from your Switch and send them over, and then it sort of re-renders it on its own, but that seems like a complete faff and something not worth it. But okay, I've bleated on about everything else long enough. Let's talk briefly, and I'm afraid it is briefly, about Garage VR, because yes, if you don't know, Garage VR, that's not right, is it? VR Garage, because yes, the Toy-Con Garage is back, and you can create Toy-Con just like you could in the other games, and it's all there in its entirety. However, you can also do the VR Garage, which is making your own bloomin' games. Now, I must admit, when I saw, you know, sort of make your own games and stuff like that, I thought, oh, that's gonna be great, but it's, you know, oh, I hope there's gonna be plenty of scope with it. And then I actually got my hands on it, and if anything, I think there's too much scope. It is overwhelming going through, and even like, you know, sort of make an FPS game. You know, it's got like various examples in there amongst all the loads of games that they've made already for you, which are great fun and great little asides. They're nothing massive, but you know, 5-10 minutes in there. Good fun. 64 of them, great value. But you go into something like make an FPS game and you go, okay, yeah, okay, I kind of see, but, and I thought to myself, okay, well, I don't want a selection of 3 guns. I just want the gun to be there all the time and just, okay, how do I do that? And then I went into the editor and it looks like this. There are a wealth of tutorials in there that do explain everything really, really well. I haven't had too much of a chance to properly get my hands on it, but I'm hoping to do so immediately after I've finished making this video. But when you go in for the first time, you're sort of expecting, you know, sort of make your own games. Okay, this is my character, make a little level, boop, 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 done. But no, it's almost too extensive, almost too flexible. You can just tell it to do anything. I don't have a lot of experience. In fact, I have no experience making games beyond what I've done in Labo VR. But it feels like it's its own engine in a sense. And it's going to be limited, absolutely, but I'm sure people will find mad ways to get around things. I mean, just look at all the stuff people have managed to make in Mario Maker, like don't run, and all those funky levels using those mechanisms, and that's in a game as limited as Super Mario Maker, let alone something that allows you to edit things on a code level, kind of. It is so promising how powerful it is. I just worry that, especially if it's being aimed towards children, that it's going to be almost off-putting because you look at it and it just looks like complete nonsense. You can't understand, you know, sort of, okay, X, Y, Z, you know, that those are axes, okay, brilliant. And then you sort of think, okay, I want to be able to pan the camera around using the control stick. And so I put all the controls in and I thought I'd done it right. And then I went to play the game and I touched the control stick even slightly. And this was, you know, with analog and everything. And it went, whoa! Like it would not do any gradual movements unless I really teeny tiny touch, and I just didn't know how to change it. I'm sure if I went through the tutorials properly, I could probably work it out and it would tell me properly how to do it, but just, you know, sort of jumping in isn't gonna work. It just isn't. You have to do the tutorials. You have to learn a lot. That was a joke. But the power is there, and it's kind of terrifying how much power there is. But oh lordy, if you can get your head around it, that is going to be one potent little sausage indeed. I mean, you see all the games, you know, the 64 games they've made in there, and those are only little small games, and you know, I'm sure people are going to take it to ridiculous lengths, and it's going to be a very spicy time indeed. Just do the tutorials. So in conclusion, Labo VR, what's it all about? Do I think it's worth it? Can I answer that question? I would say yes. But unless you're a Labo fanatic or you really want to build everything or you want to really have as broad an experience as you can in VR, I would say honestly go for the kit that I'm kind of demonstrating here, which just comes with the blaster and the VR goggles. I do have everything else, I promise, and I've probably proved that with footage that I've spliced in. But in terms of bang for your buck, this, I think, is the best you're gonna do. Everything else is fine, you know, it's entertaining enough, but, you know, for 35 quid, this is a good package. For 70 quid, or whatever it is for everything else, well, I wouldn't pay £35 for those extra Toy-Con. You know? And that of course comes with a VR garage as well, and that really is, it's the best way, it's the best thing, it's the best bang for your buck, and the VR garage is going to be a very powerful tool indeed if you can get your head around it. Overall, yeah, I'd say it's good. It's definitely, in my opinion, the best VR kit. The VR kit. It's the best Labo kit to date, and ironically, the smaller version is the best, just because everything else feels marginally superfluous, at least in the long term. Again, if you got kids and they want to build stuff, that would be great. Go for the full kit. However, if you just want a little VR, woohoo, then small kit is perfectly formed. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you stare at that subscribe button in stereoscopic 3D? And be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. Hello. Here we go. Oh, good lord, what on earth is this? Oh. Well, I just run back up a flight of stairs and got this. I hope it's not more Labo.